Welcome to the fifth of Meet Your Neighbor, a series of video interviews of some of our deacons. The intention is to demonstrate to the entire diaconate community that although we might have different cultures, ancestries, or ethnicities, first languages, or place of birth, we remain brothers and sisters to each other. It does us well to meet each other, especially to meet those deacons with whom we might not otherwise encounter. Today's video is a conversation with Deacon Ivan Siap, a man born in the Philippines but who came to the United States with his wife when they were in their 20s. They found their way to the Chicago area and raised a family. Deacon Ivan was ordained in 2012 for the Archdiocese of Chicago. And to remind you of the process, I am using a four-step model of theological reflection to gather the facts, to assess those facts in light of human learning, to assess that in light of the teachings of our faith, what to do with our scripture, what tradition, dogma, magisterial documents, what all that tells us about what the human learning tells us about the facts. And then finally, this model of theological reflection, only after exhaustively seeking the facts and then assessing them in light of reason and faith. Only then do we have an inkling of what to do. Just as with the other four videos, this video is only at step one, gathering the facts. We are only meeting a fellow deacon. The succeeding steps are for us to reflect on what this means, but those are tasks for another day. For right now, let me simply introduce you to Deacon Ivan Siap. He is our neighbor. The video, I will note for you, is edited so as to try to keep it moving and hopefully entertaining, as well as life and faith affirming. So please watch. I'd like to continue on with our Meet Your Neighbor series, and this project we've had 4 interviews, and I'm turning now to a 5th interview, and that is to talk to Deacon Ivan Siap. Thank you for doing this.
Rich, thank you for taking the time to talk to me about this. I hope this will not be a waste of time. I'll try my best to help you in that regard.
I'm sure it will be rich and rewarding. Ivan, tell us something about yourself that so that people can meet you.
I came to this country in 1984 when I was around 27 years old. I am originally from the Philippines. I come from a part of the country called Cebu City in Cebu province. When I came to this country, I had black hair, didn't wear glasses, had a good back, and now I got 3 kids, 2 grandchildren, white hair, I'm wearing glasses, have hypertension, and a bad back.
Mm-hmm.
So
welcome to the United States.
Well, I'm sure it wasn't the United States that did that, but here I am.
Well, that's good. And you are a deacon, and where do you serve?
I serve at St. Paul the Apostle Parish in Gurnee.
Okay. And when were you ordained?
I was ordained in 2012.
2012. Okay. And you mentioned wife and children, and your wife is Arlene?
My wife is Arlene. I have 3 boys, David, Michael, and James. David is 36. Michael is 32. He's got 2 kids of his own, and James is 29.
Okay. All right. So that's good. Are they in the Chicago area, or are they spread out?
They are spread out.
Okay.
David is living in Berkeley. James is living in Seattle, currently visiting with us, and Michael is living in Elk Grove and will soon be moving to Indiana in July.
Okay. I reached out to you to talk to you and not to stereotype or classify, but what is of interest to me and hopefully to our community as well is that you are a man born in the Philippines, and you said age 27 you came over?
Yes.
So the bulk of your education the bulk of your education that was in the Philippines?
Yes. So I graduated Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering in 1979, passed the board exams a year later, came to this country, and make a long story short, I had my share of a bumpy ride, so to speak. So I wasn't able to work as a mechanical engineer. And I'm now working in information technologies as an analyst.
Cebu City.
Yes, sir.
Am I saying that correctly?
You are saying it correctly.
Okay, and that's your home. I mean, that's your place of origin.
That's my place of origin. It's more accurate to say that now than saying home.
Okay, fair
I've
enough.
been here-
Fair enough.
I've been here longer than I've been in Cebu.
Okay. In terms of the, to the extent you know, the Filipino experience we'll confine it to this area, Chicago area, Archdiocese of Chicago. Are there a variety of experiences? And where I'm thinking of there is that, does it make a difference if I come to this country I'm from Manila, or I'm from Cebu City, or some other, that shows you the poverty of the depth of my ignorance about the Philippines. Those are the only two cities I can name. But does your place of origin in the Philippines affect your experience here in the United States?
I would say yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, yes, to the extent that you might carry cultural biases, for example, that are specific to that region. But I would also say your educational attainment, the skills you have to offer, would also determine where you will land. For example, most Filipinos come here as nurses, medical workers, and they come from all over the place in the Philippines. But when they come here, they land in the same community, the hospitals or clinics or nursing homes.
And so that may serve as bridging local differences back in the Philippines.
Right, and to some extent, the national language also helps bridge where we are all coming from. Although what's sometimes funny, Rich, is so our national language is Filipino, which is based on Tagalog, and where I come from, we speak Cebuano, which is another dialect. And sometimes I speak with a Filipino who's got a very thick Tagalog accent, and finally I ended up, wait a minute, are you Cebuano? And the person ends up being from the same area, but we end up speaking Tagalog because we don't know. Mm-hmm. But actually we figure it out, and then we switch to our local dialect.
Yeah. Well, it's on that, maybe it's akin to when I watch a British production on, say, Netflix or Irish. I may turn the subtitles on because we're right. People divided by a common language. I think that's Winston Churchill, that I can't understand a lot of British. The way it's sometimes spoken. Now, also in the Philippines, it's not uniformly Catholic or Christian. I mean, is it the southern regions that are that would be Muslim?
Yes. So growing up, I don't have the exact numbers, but I think the Philippines is probably 80 to 90% Catholic, and the rest of the country, which is concentrated on the southern 1/3 or on the southern part of the country, is Muslim.
Okay, and so you're not from that southern?
No, I'm not.
Cebu's up in the northern part.
Yeah, and no, I haven't been there either, so I've never visited or vacationed there.
Okay, now how often do you get back there?
I try to get back maybe once a year.
Okay, so
I probably would want to do it more often, but I'm still working, so it gets in the way of vacation times and works and family responsibilities.
Now, I assume you have family yet in the Philippines.
I have a sister-in-law and some cousins who are there. And I would say most of my closest cousins, relatives are already here in the States or in Australia or Canada.
Why at age 27 did you pick up your roots and move to the United States? What motivated that?
Well, the short version of it is it just happened. Back then, I was already 3 years into a very nice job, very promising career. And I was working in a beer bottling plant called San Miguel. Back then, at that time, it was one of the richest, if not the richest companies. And I work in the night shift for the most part. And on some nights I would be thinking, what else is out there? And also back then I was dating this wonderful woman named Arlene. And we were asking ourselves the same question. Gee, what else is out there? We have a lot of relatives who are abroad. Some of them are in America. And what do you think? So we kept asking ourselves that question. And I guess in the process, we were forming our own version of the American dream. And it was just a dream at that point.
That's brave, that's risky, that's adventurous.
Maybe this was a time for a quote. So I had this aunt who was speaking with me one day about coming to America. And she was asking me if I had any plans. And I said, yeah, but it's very difficult to get in. There's no queue for us. I was thinking of all the reasons why I couldn't or wouldn't or shouldn't do it. And he looked at me and he says, John or Nelson, getting there is half the battle. And so from that, what I took was this quote I took from Reader's Digest, which goes, don't be afraid to make a big leap if one is indicated. You cannot cross a chasm in 2 small jumps.
Yeah, that's right.
In other words, I didn't have all the answers, but I just have to make the decision. I have to commit and figure out the rest of everything when we're already committed into making that jump, which is what we did.
Well, that's as I say, that's adventurous. Now, did you have a place to Chicago was the place that you aimed for, or did you move around and just end up here?
We first lived with my aunt, that aunt who encouraged me to come here. We lived for about a year. And during that time, my first son was born. So after that, we moved to Prospect Heights. So I shared a 3-bedroom condo with my sister. Second son was born. And then after that, we lived in Skokie.
Okay. Now, one of the things I'm curious about is how the fact of being Filipino affects your experience of church. And I guess that's a twofold question. One is what does it mean to you, and what does the Filipino Catholic experience mean to the church in Chicago? So maybe let's start. What experiences do you have that I don't have because I'm not Filipino?
When I do church or when I do anything anywhere, even at work, I don't think of myself as Filipino. I just think of myself as going to work. I have my own attributes that may or may not be an advantage, could be a disadvantage. So my experience with church here, well, first of all, Rich, when I came over here, I wasn't really an avid churchgoer when I came to America. So St. Paul the Apostle was our, depending on how many times we moved, right? So this is our most recent parish. I moved to this neighborhood in 1995, and it's been my parish ever since then. And so back then I was just a casual churchgoer, and that church was brand new, and they were just organizing everything, all the ministries. And our parish priest one day just said, you organize in Bangabi. Now, he was pointing to my wife among the other people in that group. And this priest did not know my wife. These were just people, random people whom we thought were Filipinos in the gathering space. And so when Arlene came home that night, she goes, guess what? The priest asked us to organize Simbangabi. And we were not really experts in Simbangabi. So we went from knowing very little to being the ones in charge of Simbangabi, us and a bunch of other people. So I didn't have any inkling that I was going to be a deacon. This was 1999 or 2000. So this was when we started Simbangabi, and that's what started us, me and Arlene, getting more involved in the church. Okay. So now we had to explain what Simbangabi is.
I was going to ask.
Search about it ourselves.
So what do those words mean, and what is Simbangabi?
Simba in Cebuano means to adore, to go to church. Simbang gabi is a Tagalog. The NG at the end of it is the Tagalog suffix, which connects it to gabi. Gabi means night, so simbang gabi means mass at night. And we define it as a novena of Advent masses as an offering to the Blessed Virgin Mary. And it kind of is meant to highlight our piety during that time of year in preparation for the coming of the baby Jesus. This is also a big societal to do. People go out, they check out each other's churches. There's a lot of, let me just say that if you were recruiting for Eucharistic ministers, lectors, this would be the time to do it, because a lot of people, a lot of Filipinos who don't usually go to church at this time. So,
are those typically rotated among different parishes, or do some parishes do the whole 9 days, I assume?
There are many ways to do it. Some parishes just do 9 days in a row. What we have done, and I think what is more inclusive and more evangelizing, is to grab nine parishes and take turns doing it. And this has been a big challenge for us, but at the same time, we have been also, I would say, proud of being able to get these other parishes to agree to a rotation. Now, you might think, what's the big deal? It's a rotation. Well, if you get assigned Simbangabi on a Monday night, your collections won't be that great. So a lot of churches want to do Simbangabi on Saturday night, because that's when most people come to church. On December 15, 16, for example, when you're doing Simbangabi on a weekday, some kids are still going to school. So some parents are reticent to attend Simbangabi, especially if they have young children, because there's school tomorrow, there's finals, there's exams. Right. But the fact that we were able to grab nine parishes, and for them to agree that we're going to be in this rotation because we are part of a bigger whole. It's not just us, it's for the Simbangabi, and what present our community is something that we have been very proud of. Now, having said that, just let me say that it was mostly the women who did this. Arlene working with the other coordinators in the different parishes, the other Simbangabi coordinators. And most of them are women too, who did the bargaining, the finagling, the arm twisting in order to get a lineup. We call it a lineup. There were some years where our lineup involved 12 parishes. So there will be simbagabis on 2 nights. We had a choir that sang on all 9 nights. Whether it's, there was rain, sleet, or snow, they would be there.
That's a big commitment for those folks.
Yes. And I don't know if they'll still be back after the pandemic, but we had a good system going. We had somebody who volunteered to represent the cluster. We had people who did all sorts of things. We lent each other costumes because immediately after the Simbang Gabi, there was a cultural presentation in most parishes. So there would be dancing, there would be food, there would be a lot of socializing.
What does the Simbang Gabi Mass, how does it look different from, so to speak, your ordinary Mass? What's different about that novena Mass?
Well, liturgically, I think it'll be pointed all towards Christmas, but secularly from I'm trying to picture how the church would look like. The church would be more festive, and you would probably meet more people whom you don't normally meet. It's almost like Easter. But the nice thing is you see people from other parishes visiting your parish and you visiting theirs. And it's a way to network, basically.
Yeah.
So I think one of the favorites is the tinikling, where they had this bamboo dance.
Okay, I've seen that.
I'm sorry?
I've seen that. That's where you run the risk of a fractured ankle.
Yep. And we get so into that, Rich. There was one year we had 2 sets of poles going like this, forming like a cross.
Wow.
And they had this guy who was carrying a sword. Well, it told the story. But anyway, there was a princess dancing over the poles. There was a prince with his big sword dancing. And I don't know what the exact story is, but it was really cool. And there's another dance called bangko, which bangko means bench. And there was this one year where these college kids from, I think, UIUC came, and they brought their benches with them. And these are big benches, and they stacked them up to 3 high. And they danced. There was also one dance which old people like me participated, which is the maglalatik. It's I don't know if you've seen this. You've probably seen pictures of this where guys are bare-chested. They're wearing shorts or pants, and they have coconut shells strapped to their chest and their elbows, and they click it to the time of the music.
Oh. So you do that?
I did that once.
Once, okay.
I challenged. Well, it was a challenge from Rod Reyes, one of the other Filipino deacons.
Right.
And he said, I will do it if Ivan will do it. Now, he was hoping I would say no. Well, I said yes, so he danced too.
Well, this opens up a whole new video opportunity for us. So I think there's probably 5 or 6 Filipino deacons in the Archdiocese that we could get all of you guys costumed and share that with the whole community, right?
Well, our parish priest has agreed, and he's Polish. He has agreed to dance that with us next year.
Beautiful. Okay.
So,
all right. Well, I'll be there with my video camera. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Now, is this regional, or is this generally known by people back in the Philippines? I mean, you don't need to be from Manila to know what this is about. This is pretty widespread.
it is pretty widespread, yes.
Okay.
But some dances and some songs are inspired by a region, but the other folks from other regions already know about that, and it's cool.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, I could see that having the potential for just the great, networking, or the social gathering, reminding you of from whence you've come. Now, what's your view of the next generation? Say your kids, are they as attuned to, or just generally speaking, the next generation of Filipinos? Are they going to Simbang Gabi, or are they like, the same kind of issues that all of us old people face with the next generation or two?
Rich, before I answer that, just let me finish off one more thought I had in mind.
Oh, sure.
So in 2007, Cardinal George visited our parish,
Mhm.
to celebrate Simbang Gabi, and he told us that he would only stay for 10 minutes for the cultural presentation.
Mhm.
He was not planning to stay anyway. He was going to leave immediately after. He ended up staying the whole night,
Yeah.
almost close to midnight.
Wow.
Anyway, in answer to your question, yes, we have the same challenges. Not too many people are interested in continuing the tradition. They are more Americanized,
Mhm.
and they have different ideas,
Mhm.
if they're even gonna go to church at all.
The same drift away from where the parents were, whether it's Filipino or Irish or Italian or
Yep.
Mexican. There's that same sort of change in the world, and it continues
Right.
to be the challenge. Okay, all right, it's fair enough. It does strike me, and here's maybe where I get into that area of obtuse questions, but I'm struck when I go to a parish with a larger than a Filipino presence. I'm thinking I've been to St. Lambert's, and there's a fair representation there. I'm struck by the piety and the fervor and the quality of the participation of the Filipinos. It seems that faith is vibrant in that community in a way that is identifiably Filipino. Is that?
Yes, I
Sense
can
to you?
see that. I can see a lot of that in the Philippines whenever I go back. And over there, it is even more, dare I say the word, exaggerated.
Mhm.
Well, I'm just going to use that word based on the example I'm about to show you.
Mhm.
So I was receiving Holy Communion in one of our basilicas, and I was extending out my hand like this,
Mhm.
right over left, and the Eucharistic minister corrected me. He grabbed my hand and put my left hand over my right. So I think there's a lot of yes, there's a lot of piety externally, and maybe that's a socio-economic thing. That's a cultural thing that was ingrained in us by 300 years of Spanish rule. So, our grandparents, their grandparents, and their grandparents before them went through the same thing. So now it's practically in our blood.
Mhm.
But as soon as we come here to the States or any other part of the world, as soon as we are exposed to another culture, some long dormant genes reassert themselves, so to speak.
Mhm.
So yes, it is there. It is there, and yeah, it marks you as a first generation Filipino. Now, second generation, third generation, I think that depends on the crowd you hang out with,
Mhm.
to some extent, what your life experience is. For me and Arlene, we can only hope to keep doing our thing. Our kids see us doing to church. Our kids see me treating my wife fairly with respect and dignity, and her doing the same thing to me. And I'm hoping that that will set the stage for better things.
Mhm. Does Chicago have a large representation, large population of Filipinos? Is this just like a place where you would expect to find lots of other Filipinos?
Yes. I mean, I'm not an expert on that demographics, but empirically, I mean, I have observed that, yeah, there's always a lot of Filipino representation in different neighborhoods of Chicago, and even in some ministries in the Archdiocese hierarchy. I've lived in Gurnee, Waukegan, Skokie, Northbrook, and in each of those areas, we're always able to find a vibrant Filipino community.
Okay.
So
Now, as a deacon, and I, realize you don't, as I understood you, you don't, in the first instance, think, "Oh, I'm a Filipino who is a deacon," but you're a deacon. But you are blessed with 27 years of living in another country, as I have not been. What is that Filipino experience? Does that Filipino experience play a role in your life as a deacon?
the first thing I experienced as a deacon, my very acute awareness that this is not English, is not my native language. And when I was preparing to preach for the very first time, I was thinking to myself, okay, number one, I hate talking to big crowds. Number two, English is not my native language. Number three, I'm not a natural at this. But I guess I'm going to do this. And if God doesn't want me to do this, I'll know very quickly. But I'm going to do this as a leap of faith. It's difficult for me, but I will do it because that's what I think God wants me to do. And I have to believe him that this is where he is leading me. So to answer your question, it's that background has helped me deal with challenges that I would otherwise thought insurmountable. I mean, even now, occasionally I still think about, oh boy, here am I again preaching in a foreign language to some people who might not share the same culture that I do. But I'm going to do it anyway because I believe God is with me. And you know what? If God isn't, then I'll know very quickly and I'll have to deal with it. But so far, God hasn't shown me that I shouldn't be doing this. So my perspective from coming from a different background is that background helped me to deal with challenges, adversity, walls, bridges that need to be built. It helped me, it gave me the perspective that things are not as difficult as they seem, that they are doable.
Now, 2012 was your ordination?
Yes.
So you've been at this 9 years now, 10, almost 10. So is it easier than when you started?
There's a certain amount of routine. I can recycle some old homilies and refresh them. I'm more familiar with, how the baptism routine goes, or singing the Exalted. I've sung it maybe 3 or 4 times. But
they pay me to not sing that. So people have lost their faith I would never even attempt it.
Well, Rich, when we do karaoke, our wives would just say, they shake their heads and they say, there they go again.
Yeah.
You know what? We don't care if we're out of tune. We just do it because we need to let off steam. Man, I lost my train of thought.
I was asking about just the almost 10 years of experience
here. I always want to treat what I'm doing with respect, whatever I'm doing as a deacon.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think about it from the standpoint of it getting any easier. I don't say, oh, it's just another baptism.
Right.
It's just another funeral. I like to think more along the lines of who just died? What can I do to comfort them? This is baptism. Do I know this couple? How do I welcome them into the church? And for each and every couple or person that I have the privilege of welcoming to the church, for example, in a baptism, their circumstances may be different. So I always like to keep that in mind. I don't I don't treat it as vanilla.
Mhm.
So I guess to answer your question, I try not to make it old. I mean, it doesn't get old and just routine, because then you would be like the salt of the earth, losing its flavor.
Right. No, that's well said. Deacon Ivan Siap, thank you so much, and may you always walk with the Lord.
And you too, Rich.
So, and thank you for your witness and your testimony and your willingness to engage in the variety of things that we ask deacons to do. So, many blessings on you, and say hello to Arlene and the kids.
Rich, tell me your wife's name again.
Becky.
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 To you and Becky and your family as well.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right. So long.
Take care. Bye-bye.
As with the other videos, the other 4 videos in this series, I am so very encouraged as I work through this project. We have so much in common. In fact, in a part left on the digital cutting room floor of this video was Ivan's question to me of what I have seen as a result of the videos. And to reduce my long-winded, off-the-cuff answer to Ivan, let me give you the gist of what I told him in response to his question, what have I seen? The videos have told me some of these things: that there is more that unites us than separates us. Where English is not someone's first language, communication can be a difficulty that might be experienced by every immigrant community. All of us are concerned about our young people, about our ability to hand on the faith. Our faith binds us together. We can be insular and remain with that with which we are familiar, but when we stretch ourselves, the rewards are significant and immediate. That when we take the time to talk to each other, we receive the blessing of knowing additional ways of coming to know God and to walk in His way. When we trust each other, communication is possible. We are meeting our neighbors, and I thank you for watching. May God bless you, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.